We're going to do another Tennyson Gambit now. This is going to be fairly short. Hopefully there's no interference on this. I'm hooked up to a tens machine right now. But it is something to do while I'm hooked up to a tens machine. I can't explain to you what it's like to get to a certain age and start doing things you've always done your whole life and all of a sudden have your muscles all pulled. But what we're going to do is, in this particular case, of course it ruins black's preparation. And the reason I'm showing this to you is this is a 2200 player who falls into a ridiculous trap. So we did the first two things, got a good center, and then we allowed black to fall into a ridiculous trap. So here's the game. It doesn't last long. Let's turn on the engine. Okay, so first inaccuracy, he moved the knight instead of the bishop to f5. That allows me to lock in his bishop. Now he has to move e6. Okay, now we're going to go after that pawn. Interestingly, black has an advantage here according to the computer. So we move queen d2 almost always here. Gee, I've never noticed a6 is the suggested move. Computer must know something about that knight hopping to b5. So he makes this move, and a number of people make this move, and I'm not sure why they make this move, but most of the people suggest, that I've seen do tutorials on this. Take with the G knight. I've never done that. I take with the C knight. Now it makes a lot more sense to take with the C knight, and because nothing's threatening the G knight yet, and you can always trade it off with that knight on f6 if stuff starts getting overloaded because there's a check there. So we're going to take with the C knight, and the whole idea is to start expanding our center with c3 and d4. Okay, so now he's forced to take, and he doesn't. So this is an example of, like, gee, what happened here? White has a slight advantage. He should be worried about his bishop on c5 just being exchanged off, and he doesn't. He pushes. And this is kind of unexplainable because there are all these traps here, and this is basically a lost game here. So, he's lost on move 5 or whatever this is. Says he's got to move back. He doesn't. Things get worse. Let's suppose that he did move back. Okay, what happens? What happens if he just moves back? Okay, queen to d8, knight takes check. Wrong. So where's the trap? Let's look at it. Let's do a variation here. Okay, so we know he moved here and allows the fork, which loses the game. So he goes to d8. Okay, so now we play here. Knight takes f7. Now it says king takes f7. Okay. So what's the big deal here? Knight takes e5, right? Okay. Rook to e8. Now it's 3 pieces against 3 pieces, and one side's missing 2 pawns, and yet we have an evaluation of a plus 2.5 basically. d4. Let's play through it a little bit. Add variation. Knight to c6. Castles. Now it says the best he can do is b6. Now we're just going to go knight to d3, headed toward the square, and doesn't really look like white should be up this much. So let's play it a little further. These are all obvious moves. Okay. So we have 3 pieces versus 3 pieces. We have a superior pawn structure, and we're a pawn up, and yet the evaluation is plus 2.5. Still up 2.5 in this position. Knight to d6. So this requires, maturity of judgment. We're going to have to guard these squares, the e4 square, knight to d5. Now, to many people's minds, at this point, you look at this and you think, how could this be? This looks like near equality. But we have an extremely superior position in terms of squares, and we're a pawn up. So basically we're sitting on a win if you're the computer. It's 3 pieces versus 3 pieces, 2 rooks versus 2 rooks, a queen versus a queen. Black's missing 2 pawns, white's missing 1 pawn, and there's this huge disparity in evaluation. I think it almost certainly has to do with the fact that this pawn right here is weak. It's isolated. You can just sit on it all day and eventually get it. It's interesting to see the way this computer plays. His goal is going to be to dissolve this pawn somehow, some way, somewhere. And our goal is going to be to expand the center. These are all moves that are easily played, that anybody can play. And yet, it would appear that the computer says white has a winning advantage. So, that was an interesting trap and an interesting idea that occurred here. And this was something we needed to investigate.